Welcome to Jasim Graphs. Today, we're diving into a huge topic, one that literally shapes every single day of our lives: ethics. You can think of it as our guide to figuring out the right thing to do. So, let's get right into it. Okay, picture this. You're just walking down the street, minding your own business, and you see a wallet lying on the pavement. You pick it up, open it, and it is stuffed with cash. There's nobody around, so what do? That one simple question, it throws us right into the deep end of ethics. Life is just full of these moments, these forks in the road where we have to pick a path. Some choices are no-brainers, but others, they can be a real struggle between what we want to do and what we feel we should do. And that struggle, that's what we call an ethical dilemma. So, to help us navigate these tough spots, we need some kind of blueprint, right? A framework. Well, that's exactly what the formal study of ethics gives us. It's a way to think through our choices, from the tiny ones to the life-changing ones. At its absolute core, ethics is a branch of philosophy that's all about moral principles. But it's not just some dusty, abstract idea. Nope, it's a super practical guide that asks the question, how ought we to act in all the different roles we play, as a friend, a citizen, a professional, you name it? Now, it's also really important to know what ethics isn't. For starters, it's not just about your gut feeling, because let's be honest, feelings can be all over the place. It's not the same thing as religion. You can be deeply ethical without being religious at all. And it is definitely not just about following the law or doing what your culture says is normal. Why? Because sometimes laws and cultural norms can be flat out wrong. And that brings us to a really key distinction: ethics versus morality. They sound similar, but there's a difference. Think of ethics as the external rules, like a code of conduct for doctors or journalists. It's what society says is right. Morality, on the other hand, is your own internal compass. It's what you, personally, believe is right. So, how do we actually make these ethical decisions? Well, philosophers have basically given us three major toolkits, or you could call them lenses, for looking at any problem. Let's break them down. First up, we've got a big word: consequentialism. And just like it sounds, this one is all about the consequences. From this point of view, whether an action is right or wrong depends completely on its outcome. It's pretty straightforward. The best choice is the one that produces the greatest amount of good for the greatest number of people. End of story. The famous philosopher John Stuart Mill, who was a huge proponent of this, put it perfectly. The goal is just to maximize happiness and minimize suffering. It's a really simple but incredibly powerful way of looking at the world. You've probably heard of the trolley problem, right? Where you have to pull a lever. Well, that is pure consequentialist thinking. Pulling that lever is seen as the right choice because, hey, saving 5 lives is a better outcome than saving 1, even if you have to actively do something that leads to that one person's death. The outcome is what matters. Okay, now for our second lens. It's called deontology, and it basically takes that whole idea of consequences and just throws it out the window. See, here, the focus isn't on the results at all. It's on duties and moral rules. From this perspective, the consequences don't matter one bit. Certain actions like lying, stealing, or breaking a promise are just wrong. Period. Inherently wrong. The main guy behind this, Immanuel Kant, gave us a core principle he called the categorical imperative. It sounds complicated, but he's really just asking a powerful question. Would you be okay if everyone, everywhere, for all time, acted the exact same way you're about to act? If the answer is no, well then the act is wrong. So let's go back to promise keeping. A deontologist would say breaking a promise is wrong, not because it might lead to bad results, but just because the act itself violates a moral duty. It's all about the principle of the thing, not the outcome. All right, on to our third and final lens, virtue ethics. And this one shifts the focus completely. It's not about outcomes, it's not about rules, it's all about character. Instead of asking, what is the right thing to do, a virtue ethicist asks, what kind of person should I be? The idea is that if you focus on building a good, virtuous character, the right actions will just naturally follow. So, what are these virtues? Well, they're exactly what you'd think. They're those excellent character traits we all admire in people. Qualities like honesty, courage, compassion, justice, wisdom. Virtue ethics says we should all be trying to cultivate these traits in ourselves. And this brings us full circle, right back to that wallet we found at the beginning. A virtue ethicist returns it. Why? Not because they calculated the consequences, and not because of a rule, but simply because that's what an honest person does. The action is just a reflection of their good character. Okay, so I know what you might be thinking. These all sound like things you debate in a philosophy class. But trust me, these lenses are used every single day to try and solve some of the most complicated problems we face in the real world. This whole field is called applied ethics. It tackles those gut-wrenching calls that doctors have to make in bioethics. It looks at corporate behavior and business ethics. And it's on the front lines of the new challenges with things like AI and data privacy and computer ethics. I mean, who's responsible if a self-driving car crashes? These are huge questions, and they all rely on those three frameworks we just talked about. So let's just boil it all down. What are the big takeaways? First, ethics is your toolkit for deciding between right and wrong. Second, it's way more than just your feelings, the law, or what everyone else is doing. And third, you now have three powerful lenses to look at any choice. Focus on the consequences, the duties, or the character behind the action. And that leaves us with one final thought, a question for you. Now that you know the basics, think about your own life, the decisions you make. Which one of those lenses do you think you use the most? Are you all about the outcome, the rules, or your character? Drop a thought in the comments. It's really interesting to think about. Hey, if you enjoyed this breakdown and learned something, do me a favor and hit that like button and share it with someone who might find it useful. And of course, make sure you subscribe to Jasim Graphs for more explainers on complex topics just like this one. Thanks so much for watching.